Never breathe too loudly. I learned that early on, but I only understood its true meaning after that night. I grew up hearing my grandfather repeat this phrase like a mantra, as if it were the most important thing in the world. He said the house we lived in was too old, full of things that didn't belong only to us. That sometimes the air carried whispers that weren't ours, and that silence was the only defense against what crawled in the darkness. Our home was a property passed down through generations, built in the 19th century, isolated in the countryside, surrounded by miles of dense forest. The wooden planks creaked underfoot, the wind howled through the cracks in the windows, and the smell of old wood filled every corner. My parents worked in the city and only came home on weekends, so I was raised under my grandfather's care. He was a strict man but affectionate in his own way. He taught me how to hunt, how to recognize footprints in the damp soil, and most importantly, how to respect the house rules. The first rule was never to walk around the house after midnight. The clock in the living room always chimed to signal when it was time to retreat. After that, silence had to reign. The second rule was to never open the basement door. I never knew what was inside, but the way my grandfather avoided my gaze whenever I asked made it clear that it was best not to insist. And, of course, the third rule, never breathe too loudly. They hear it, he said. They can tell when the air moves the wrong way, and if they notice you, they'll want you to stop. For a long time, I thought it was just superstition. Children hear all sorts of things from their elders and rarely take them seriously. But then one night, everything changed. I was 15, and like any teenager, I started testing the limits of the rules. That night, my parents were home, sleeping upstairs, and my grandfather was snoring in the next room. The storm outside made it impossible to sleep. The wind battered against the house, thunder rumbled in the distance, and every crack in the roof seemed to expand with the moisture. That's when I heard it, a faint noise coming from the hallway, a rhythmic sound like breathing, but it didn't belong to anyone I knew. My heart pounded, and I instinctively held my breath. The thunder masked the sound, but I knew it was there, a deep inhale, followed by a slow, deliberate exhale. Something was breathing with me, just a few steps from my room. I remembered my grandfather's words. Fear surged through my body like an electric current. I shut my eyes and tried to control my own breathing, taking tiny sips of air, moving only the necessary muscles. The sound persisted for several minutes. Maybe it was the wind, I tried to convince myself. Maybe it was my imagination. Then, something scraped against the wooden floor. Nails. Nails lightly scratching the ground, testing the surface, inching closer to my door. My entire body tensed, and I felt sweat trickle down my neck. I could see the doorknob turning slightly, an almost imperceptible movement, but real. Just enough to make me understand that I wasn't dreaming. I had held my breath for too long and had to exhale. Controlled, nearly inaudible, but in the silence of the house, it might as well have been a scream. And then everything stopped. The breathing in the hallway ceased, the creaking of the wood vanished. The world seemed to freeze around me. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe I was safe, that maybe it had all been just a storm-induced hallucination. But then I heard it, right outside my door, so close that I felt the air pressure change. A whisper, low, raspy, mingled with the sound of something inhaling deeply. My skin crawled. Terror consumed me from the inside out. I could feel something on the other side of the door, something waiting, something aware of my existence. I remained motionless, my lungs burning from the lack of air. I didn't know what to do. If I ran, I would make noise. If I breathed, I would reveal my position again. Time stretched, dragging on like an endless agony. Then, the doorknob turned completely. The door didn't open right away. It was as if the thing on the other side was testing my reaction. The cold metal groaned under the grip of something that wasn't human. And then the smell came, a stench of rot, of stagnant flesh, of something that should no longer be alive. Panic took hold of me. I had to do something. I remembered my grandfather's rules, the words he had repeated so many times. But what if that thing had never left the basement? What if that was why he never allowed me to open that door? Silence returned. The door remained shut. Slowly, the doorknob turned back to its original position, but the smell was still there. I wanted to believe it had left. I wanted to believe I was safe. But then I heard a new sound, something moving under the bed. A slow, almost imperceptible dragging, a low sigh, and then something whispered, "I heard you." Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.